Bentley, come on down. If it's okay with the council, we'll take items 4 through 10 and discuss them all at once. Chief, if you don't mind, for Councilor Driver's knowledge, explain what a mutual aid agreement is. Give us a little background on that.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. So, to not cloud the waters too much, but we have an automatic aid agreement through the state of Alabama called AMAS. And AMAS deals with hazardous materials team and our technical rescue team. So when there's a weather event, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever, we're deployed by the state through an AMAS team. Our AMAS technical rescue team's been on many deployments. And so that is managed through the state EOC. We're deployed through the state EOC with a tracking number so that we can be reimbursed for different things. And so that is strictly for hazardous materials response and any kind of technical rescue. So just a couple years ago, we had Hurricane Sally, and Hurricane Sally kind of really messed up the coast pretty bad. It was not intended to be that dramatic of a storm, but it was. Our technical rescue team was deployed. They went down, stayed 3 days, and came back. So their mission was complete for search and rescue. The 2 chiefs that I know personally at Mobile, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach requested additional resources. And they needed suppression units to come down and help them answer fire alarm calls and let their folks go back to normal. The state has nothing in place for those type of requests. So those requests, mutual aid is kind of like you call and we'll go. But typically we don't go 4 or 4.5 hours away. Center Point is called before during the weather event. We've helped them and so on and so forth. But what this particular resolution does for us is the Alabama Association of Fire Chiefs Mutual Aid Consortium put together a program, an agreement, if you will, that we can go to these different areas and help as requested. It's not automatic, it's a request. And that's what that resolution does. So I don't have any questions about that. It's the first time that's ever been done. And we think it'll be a good thing in the future. I don't know if it'll be very reciprocal. I think that we will probably go to different areas, the coast and stuff like that on a regular basis. I don't see Orange Beach or Gulf Shores or Mobile coming to help us because there's so many entities between them and us. But we think this will be a good thing for the overall state.
Is there a cost reimbursement associated with this?
There's not.
It is just, we help you, you help us.
That's correct.
But mostly we help you.
Correct.
Okay.
Mutual aid. That's right. Any other questions on that?
Thank you, Chief. So yeah, that's item number 4. And as the Chief described, this is a new item that we've not seen before. Any questions about the statewide mutual aid agreement? And Chief, if you would go into, on a more local level, what a mutual aid agreement looks like with the departments listed there in items 5 through.
Okay. So we have automatic aid agreements with 7 different agencies that surround us, and it is reciprocal. We operate in their territories on a daily basis, and they operate in our territories on a daily basis. Those are North Shelby, Cahaba Valley, Vestavia, Birmingham, Helena, those places. So before you tonight, we have 5 different automatic aid agreements between, let me find my place back here, between Cahaba Valley, North Shelby, Pelham, Rocky Ridge, and Vestavia. So we still have 2 that we're working on. These agreements are looked at about every 3 years or so. We update those and change those accordingly. And what we've done is we've gone to each department, sat down with their staff, and looked at how the agreement was written. We've adjusted that. One thing that we've done with these agreements is we haven't put every street that we would cover and every building that we would cover, because we don't have to come back to you if we change a street. So what we've done is, this is the agreement that has been vetted by our attorneys. And what we'll do is if we need to change a street or add a street, we can do that without having to come back to council. And this is something that accreditation found as they were going through our records, that we needed to keep these things more updated. And so we put it on a 3-year review process. We'll look at it every year, but we won't do anything with it until the 3rd year. And so that's the departments that we operate with on a regular basis. Birmingham and Helena, their automatic aid agreements, we'll work on those next.
That does cover items 4 through 9. I would ask if there's any questions about mutual aid agreements or any of those.
I would say that we added in these agreements that we could loan fire apparatus and equipment to other entities if needed, and we could borrow if needed, and we've had to do that this year. And we've loaned a good bit of equipment, but that is spelled out in the agreements as well.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Item number 10 also authorizes the mayor to execute an MOU with Hoover City Schools. Tell us about that, please.
So the RC3 Career Connections, we're in our 4th year there. Been very successful. We're very proud of that program and what's going on there. I was approached by the school system early this year to add 2 additional part-time instructors there. These 2 instructors will be mainly mentors and teachers, instructors for the senior level group that has already completed the volunteer firefighter 160 program. And they think that it's very much needed. We were hoping that we could teach additional classes to the people who graduated from the 160 class, but we'll just have to work through that with the fire college. This is almost totally reimbursed by the school system. So basically, we pay these instructors, or the instructors that are now, we pay them the overtime rate. And then at the end of the month, we send the school board a bill and they reimburse us the money. You should have the document that shows the breakdown. Basically, it's gonna cost us about $6 an hour for both of these instructors to teach. And so we're getting reimbursed for the majority of the costs. And we think this is, will just enhance our program even more.
Any questions about that item for the chief? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Reeves, you have items 11 and 12. Item 11 is to amend resolution 680822 for additional lanes on 261.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lyda. This is to amend the previously approved project resolution for the right-of-way utility and construction agreement between the city and AlDOT for the State Route 261 and Valledale Road widening project. The changes in the revised resolution are due to AlDOT needing to modify the funding sources they had identified in the original resolution. There are no changes to the city's commitment or the funding on their part. The resolution is just for concurrence and support of the AlDOT revisions.
Any questions for Mr. Reeves? Item number 12, the annual transportation plan for FY24.
Yes, sir. This item also is related to the Alabama rebuild gas tax. It was passed about 4 years ago. Each year we are to present a resolution and annual transportation plan outlining how we're going to utilize those funds for the next fiscal year. As part of that plan for fiscal year 24, we propose to resurface the mill, Honor Road, Data Drive, Wood Meadow Circle, Lane in place. The estimated cost for this project would be $583,000. The estimated rebuild gas tax for fiscal year 24 is $558,000. We will cover the associated overruns with additional gas taxes allocated in the fiscal year 24 budget for resurfacing.
Any questions for Mr. Reeves? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Pepper is here. For item number 13, a resolution accepting a bid for event supply rental for the city.
Yes, sir. So we put out a bid for event supply rentals, so tents, tables, chairs, that sort of stuff, items we use frequently for our events. The notice was sent out to about 695 companies. We received back 4 bids, one of which was a no bid. So after reviewing all those bids, we recommend that we go with special occasion rentals.
Is that someone we've used before, Mr. Pepper?
It is, we, done similar bids back in 2014 and 2017, and Special Occasion was the, company that we've been using in those years as well.
And this is for what period of time? I don't see that on here.
I don't know if we'll go with our standard 1 year, 3 years.
Okay.
Well,
1 year, very good. Any other questions, Mr. Pepper?
Mr. President, how does that compare to previous contracts?
as far as pricing. I didn't look at the previous pricing, so yeah, I don't know. I know that they had a few increases, on a few of their items, but it wasn't like significant on it, for tents or anything.
Thank you.
Any others? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Polk has item number 14, budget amendment.
Thank you, council. This is a budget amendment for, the Met parking lot. This was, part of some of the Met renovations that we talked about in the 5-year capital plan, and it is an amendment of $6 million.
Any questions for Ms. Polk?
Mr. President, Ms. Polk, where will this $6 million come from?
This is gonna come from the current fund balance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Madam. 15 through 17, Mr. Knight, if you'd make your way, please. First item 15 is resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Placer AI.
Yes, sir. Last year, council was kind enough to approve, mayor to execute a contract with Placer AI, which is a service that we use, to analyze visits to key locations within the city as well as city-owned facilities. It's used heavily by my office, by Ms. Wyatt in her work, and through our Parks and Rec department. And this is an amendment to the order that was placed last year as the price increased from $35,000 to $36,750. This is a budget item.
Questions for Mr. Knight? Okay, item number 16, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Economic Research Services.
Sure, this is also, an agreement that with Dr. Kayvon Darabi with Economic Research Services to analyze, the effects of grocery tax on the city and its economic impact.
Any questions for this item?
Yes, Mr. President. I guess I'm confused why we're just now seeing an agreement for work that's already to expire. Shouldn't this come to us beforehand?
This work was done, as previous work with Dr. Darabi has been done off of a purchase order originally.
Right, shouldn't any agreement for services be done before services have been completed?
In this case, we didn't have a specific agreement for services, it was just an ask for him to do that and to provide an analysis, and we have purchase order. But we certainly will make sure that in the future that any such agreements do come before him.
Yeah, I think your question, fundamental question is on tap, or on target. I think the question is, what should we be allowing to be done versus, purchase order versus council signatures?
Right.
And I think that does deserve further conversation.
Mr. President, one more question. So the $15,000 in here has been paid by purchase order previously.
It has not been paid yet.
It has not been paid, but after this agreement is done, you're gonna pay the 15 by purchase order.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, so he did the work, then we did the agreement, now we're gonna pay it.
Correct. Am I saying that correctly?
How, is that a typical, I might beat you up, Greg, I promise. Is that a typical process, or is this something that?
Well, I mean, not to speak for Ms. Bo, but keep in mind, we're gonna vote on the payment of bills. And all that's been done.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So we do that every meeting.
Okay,
Going forward.
okay, that's fine. Thanks for answering this question.
No problem.
Alright, item number, where are we, 17? Resolution authorizing mayor to execute an agreement with Waymaker Group.
Certainly, so various members of council have heard about work through the Industrial Development Board and the Commercial Development Authority, to look at Middlebrooks Corporate Park. And as our comp plan calls for that to be a technology campus through the recommendation of our CDA and the Industrial Development Board. We went to find groups, we went out and sent an RFP to over 15 different groups that specialize in this sort of economic development planning. We received 8 different bids back from them, or I should say bids, proposals, this was a request for proposal, to do a comprehensive plan of that campus and to make specific recommendations back. Waymaker Group was identified as the top proposal. They proposed 3 phases for the plan: an innovation district strategic vision, innovation asset assessment, and a redevelopment conceptual that will cost approximately $150,000. 58 Inc., Shelby County's economic development arm, is contributing $30,000 for this project. $80,000 of funding for this project had been allocated in the fiscal year 2023 plan to council in this year's budget. Again, this work has been guided through the CDA and the ID board. And with this funding, we can move forward with phases 1 and 2. Phase 3 is a 2024 project, and is a budget request item, which is in this, but it's contingent upon budget approval next year. And the agreement that you have in front of you, Mr. Corley, is helping us finalize the last of the negotiations with the group, so it's in draft format. I'll answer any questions I can about that for you. Very exciting project.
Mr. President, I have some questions for Mr. Knighton.
Sure.
Mr. Knighton, I'm glancing through here and I see where the obligations are for us to pay at a certain time. And I may be overlooking it, but what is the required timeline for the delivery of the services and is that in the contract?
I'm gonna let Mr. Pruitt, he has negotiated all of this on our behalf.
With the help of some other people, but yeah, the last exhibit, there's deliverables in the timeline. So at the very end of the document, you'll see specific phases and timelines that they're set to meet. So that scope of work's been identified. We've got specific deliverables in the exhibit about like length of pages of documents that they're supposed to provide for us.
Thank you.
Sure. Anything further, council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
The next 2 items are for reappointments of members to the Park and Rec Board. I've been in contact with Bobby Humphrey and Lynn Cummings. Both have been longtime supporters and servants on that board, and they have both agreed to serve another term. So on Monday night, the council will be asked to consider reappointing both Mr. Humphrey and Ms. Cummings to our Park and Rec Board. Item number 20, Mr. Reeves, is a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit an application for the MPDG grant.
Yes, sir, and thank you, Mr. Lyda, for working with us on that today. This is an item that Mr. Miller and the Exit 9 Interchange Group identified as a possible funding source for the interchange, and they're pursuing about $35 million with this grant.
Certainly, the council is asked just to consider application. I don't know that we would have any opposition to going after $25 million, but if there is any, you shall say on Monday night. Any questions, Mr. Reed?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then item number 21, Mr. Martin. Nuisance of weeds.
Well, first off, it's a pleasure to share this podium a little bit more.
Yes.
So yes, the first item we have is a resolution for abatement at 2152 Larchmont Circle. We had a previous reading of this site with photographs. It's in very bad shape. We will, of course, update the status on Monday prior to the meeting.
Any questions for Mr. Martin? Routine weeds. Also, item number 22, declaring a weed nuisance.
Yes, sir. We have a total of 5 properties where we are asking for a nuisance declaration. One of these, the first one on the list, will be familiar to you. We just recently, the council just recently took action on the deck and other portions of the structure that are unsafe. The weeds and grass are also out of control on this property, and so that's why that's why this shows up on the list. And we have some other properties, another 4 properties that currently do not meet our ordinance with grass and weed height.
Any questions for Mr. Martin on that?
Mr. President.
Sir.
Mr. Mack, what businesses are here located at John Hopkins Parkway and Galleria Circle?
The John Hawkins Parkway, I believe, is the Iron Tribe. It's close to the Embassy Suites on John Hawkins, and the Galleria Circle property, that address comes to the, I believe it was a Japanese restaurant.
Okay. Please repeat offenders.
Neither one of these registered with me as repeat offenders. I know we had a location next door to the Japanese restaurant site on Galleria Circle that we had seen a couple of times. The automotive repair facility used to be the Sears Automotive Center. But these are not repeat offenders in my memory anyway.
Mr. McClinton, I believe that the Japanese restaurant had closed down for a period of time due to renovations and so forth. And recently reopened this week, so.
Maybe we'll get this remedied.
Any other questions? Mr. Martin, the last item 23 there, I'm sorry, this is for a second reading, I believe, Ms. Dickerson, is that right?
That's correct.
I believe this is a change of ordinance for the PUD notifications.
Yes, sir, just a real quick review. In cases where a planned unit development is 10 years or older and a proposed PUD amendment affects either one property or less than 20% of the PUD, this amendment would direct us to notify in accordance with our general rezoning procedures.
Very good. This will be a second reading. I hope the members have had an opportunity to read that. It is a significant change and gets PUD regulations in line with our standard ordinance for notification.
And I'll just note that there is a cost savings to the city for this. So if you have a case right now where there is such an amendment for one of our larger planned unit developments, you can have 1,500, 2,000 notices going out, and it's 68 cents a pop. Not just one notice, but we have to send those notices twice for each case, once from the planning commission, once from council. So it gets a little hefty.
Any questions, Mr. Martin, on that item? And finally, we'll have a first reading for abatement of weeds and grass.
Yes, sir, and as with the others, we will run a check on these Monday to make sure they are still out of compliance before we come to you for final action.
Very good. Questions on that item? Any general questions or comments tonight? Chief?
Thank you, Council. I just wanted to say a couple of things about this past Friday night with the storm. Obviously, the significant damage to trees and power lines down the Bluff Park community. In a little over 3 hours, we had 260 phone calls for services, 225 damage reports, and almost 2,800 radio transmissions. Busy night for all first responders, and really Public Works needs some kudos for getting all that cleaned up in about 24 hours. They did a heck of a job, and also thanks to the fire department, police department for working hard that night also. And I guess some of you may saw that We had a police officer who was born on the island of Maui. His mom and dad and grandparents still live there. And unfortunately, his grandfather perished in the fires. So Monday morning at 5:30, he left for Maui. We were able to raise money and took a lot of things with him. But his wife sent a nice email that if you've got a few seconds, I'd just like to read what she said. I remember how blessed we felt when my husband first got the offer to work here. I never imagined we'd be gaining a family of over 200 wonderful people. But that's exactly what this department is, a family. The people of Maui lost a great deal in these fires. They lost their homes, valuables, culturally significant locations, and worst of all, they lost family members. My husband's family was certainly included in this tragedy. He expressed his desire to go back and help the people, the place he loves. His co-workers have been jumped into action. The employees of Hoover PD covered over a week of varying scheduled shifts, donated items for the take to use in rescue efforts, and donated a generous amount of personal money. With this, he was able to obtain a variety of needs, such as canned goods, formula, diapers, blankets, and first aid items to take with him to Maui and donate. A fellow officer even got up at 3 a.m. Monday to take him to the airport, so I didn't have to wake up our 7-month-old baby. He'll be able to spend a little over a week participating in rescue efforts, mourning with his family, and helping rebuild the place he once called home. Thank you, employees of Hoover PD. So it was just a very, I met with him Sunday night, and a very emotional time. His grandparents were gonna get evacuated to the other side of the island, and grandmother went. Grandfather, he said there's so many fires that usually get the garden hose out, and it's not a big deal, but his grandfather was found deceased in the field that day, so keep him in prayers.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that update. Any other general comments or questions tonight? Mr. Martin, Mr. Aldecca, if I could have a moment with you, please, after the meeting. We're adjourned now. Thank you.
We're good.